So thank you, everybody, for coming. We're here, obviously, for a very important announcement relative to a MassWorks grant. Before we do that, feel compelled to talk a little bit about the power outage over the last couple of days, the impact on the community, and what we're doing to make sure that we address that. So beginning early Monday morning, based on as a result of a pretty severe windstorm, North Andover lost power to 96% of its residents and business owners. More significant impact than we traditionally receive, quite frankly. We had trees out and roads blocked. I've been working aggressively on the public works side and with the public safety folks to address that over the last, close to 36 hours. Power has not been restored at the pace or the speed that we've been pleased with. It can be for any number of reasons, quite frankly, the extent of the storm in the region. Merrimack Valley was particularly hard hit. You'll hear National Grid talk about that. It was a pretty interesting map put out by MEMA that looks at the distribution of power loss throughout the Commonwealth, and certainly the Merrimack Valley seems to be the worst hit. Perfect. What timing. That was excellent. That must have been someone pulling the plug. Our generator will kick in. Beautiful. We were, Muzz will comment on that while we're there. This facility and others around town were very fortunate that with the help of very competent staff, we have extremely strong, robust generator power at almost all of our buildings. Apologize, not the library, but Town Hall operated at full schedule yesterday with full staffing, and I appreciate the staff's commitment to do that to respond to residents. It's helpful to know that we're here and here often. I'm hearing of other communities that haven't been able to operate police stations and fire stations and other municipal facilities. So the fact that we operated in full schedule, held meetings last night here in Town Hall, and the fact that our public safety buildings have been operating since the storm first hit is, I think, indicative of the staff and the commitment here by the community into its infrastructure. It's very important. Back to the residents, we have seen some restoration along the Route 114 corridor, which is a particular note to us because of the traffic signals and the amount of traffic that travels along 114. We've yet to see the restoration along 125, the subject of today's MassWorks grant, but along 125, so we still see traffic lights without power. The police department has committed some additional staffing at the major intersections to make sure that we can reduce any possibility of traffic accident or gridlock. About 50% of our housing authority properties have seen restored power, at least 50% without. We continue to contemplate opening what I caution to use as the term shelter, because it's not a shelter from a Red Cross perspective, but some kind of facility to help seniors and others if we continue to see power outages through the evening. We're expecting temperatures to drop to the high 30s or low 40s, much more different than yesterday, so it's a concern of ours, and we'll continue to communicate that. I would suggest to everybody, we're communicating. We find that residents are most in tune to social media, including our website and Facebook and Twitter and the town's news feed. Continue to stay on top of that. It's where we're providing an extensive amount of information. For the 50th time, trick or treat will not be this evening. The most important question around town is when's trick or treat, and so I think we've communicated that sufficiently. It was moved by the Board of Selectmen last night to Saturday from 5:30 to 7:30. It's important for folks to know that. So again, we're contemplating the need to open some facility to support the seniors and those that have some issues with either not having food or not having heat in their homes, and those are of particular note to us. Finally, no decision has been made on the schools. The public schools were closed the last 2 days. I've had several conversations with Dr. Price today. The general sort of rule of thumb as it relates to schools, either you're all open or all closed. It's hard to open buildings when you may have siblings in elementary and some in high school and trying to juggle that. Currently, 2 of the 8 school buildings are open, or have power. That'd be the high school and the sergeant school, which means we still have 6 facilities, which include the ECC, without power. So we got some work to do. The Lieutenant Governor, we very much appreciate the Lieutenant Governor just coordinated a conference call with NGRID, Mass Emergency Management, Department of Public Utilities, and Secretary Beaton to give us some feedback on the status of what the response is today. National Grid has indicated to us that they plan on having 90% restoration of power by 10 a.m. tomorrow. I think what we've communicated to them is that it's less about the percentage and more about those assets that are returned. We need the schools, we need the housing authorities first. We need those intersections to make sure that people are safe when they drive. So we hope the 90% is achieved, but in the end, if it's 80% and those other priority assets are returned to service, that would be most important to us. and we've communicated that. The folks up here in the loft that other people can't see, the emergency management folks that just left that meeting, I'd like to thank them for their extraordinary efforts since about 2 o'clock yesterday morning, I guess. The days are sort of compressed together a little bit. Emergency management director, police and fire chiefs, DPW director, who have worked tirelessly to make sure that we're responding as best we can to our residents. So that's my update on the storm. Transitioning to other important information. We're here today because of two primary reasons. One is we have an extraordinary partner with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on many things, and this is just another example. And two, the Board of Selectmen several years ago prioritized the 125 corridor as an area of focus to make sure that from an economic development perspective, we continue to sustain that end of our tax base. And with that, they charged Erica Forey and I, the Director of Community and Economic Development, to bring more business to the 125 corridor, and we're doing that. And this is an example of that. For those of you who are less familiar, the 125 corridor once was the home to the most vibrant economic center, say 20 years ago in the region. The former Lucent or Western Electric facility at one point had more than 12,000 employees. Over 3 shifts arrive every day in North Andover coming down Route 125. It's also the home is the longest single-family operated farm in the United States of America, in Barker Farm, and has a lot of other important assets along that strip. And so the selectmen made a goal of theirs, and therefore a goal of mine, to focus on 125 and bring more economic development to that stretch. This is a critical piece of that. The proposed development here at the Fajetta Princeton property site will be a mixed-use development with residential property and commercial, bringing jobs to the region and new residents to the region. The infrastructure improvements planned around that, which center around this grant, are nearly $3 million worth of improvements that will link key assets to make sure that those residents and the patrons that visit those businesses have a way to get into North Andover and into that region, and bring additional economic development to the businesses that already exist in the corridor. And so we're extremely excited about that opportunity. I want to thank the Board of Selectmen for making this corridor a priority. I want to thank the partners we've had at the state. It should be noted that in the last 2 years alone, we've had a $1.6 million Safe Routes to School project. We've had a public-private partnership around Merrimack College in 114 that was nearly $2.1 million paid for between the Commonwealth, with the help of the legislative delegation and others, and the college. We're seeing similar improvements that are going to happen at the corner of the intersection of Massachusetts Avenue here in North Andover and 125. All told, more than $8 million worth of public-private investment in the region, things that are beneficial to the community, residents and business owners, and a real recognition that this administration and the staff within it feel that North Andover and what happens here from a job perspective are important. I'd like to recognize members of the Board of Selectmen. I have Chairman Phil DiColigiero here. Selectman Smedili is here as well. The folks, Regina Keene, another member of the board, Dick Valancourt, and Chris Nobley. So with that, as an overview, I'd like to turn it over to Bruce Tarr to make some comments.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and good afternoon. And I want to echo some of what Andrew said about the storm. I think this storm has been of a duration and severity with regard to its impacts that very few of us expected. Now that we understand how long we're going to be dealing with those things, all of us in the legislative delegation are committed to continuing to work in whatever we can, way we can, to be able to address that. We've been working primarily through the Mass Emergency Management Agency, as well as other members of the administration who have been working to coordinate an effective response to make sure that people get their power back and that they're not exposed to danger or hardship any more than is absolutely not preventable in a situation. And so as we do think about colder temperatures, I think we're all thinking about what we're going to need to do to ensure that that element of this situation is addressed, and we'll continue to be here as we need to be here to work with all of our partners in local government and local public safety to make sure that the response is effective and productive and swift. And in addition to that, I would point out that that is the reason that Senator O'Connor Ives cannot be with us today, because she is addressing several communities that also have power outages, and understandably she needs to be addressing that situation first and foremost. But she did want to extend her regards and her congratulations to everyone that's involved in this project, and her thanks to Secretary Ash and the Baker-Polito administration. That being said, it is important that we try to get to normal activities as quickly as we can and resume our focus on the things that are important in what we all do every day. And this particular announcement is a great example of that, because certainly it addresses two of the priorities that no matter who you talk to, people raise. One is trying to have housing that's available to folks and that fits into the economic context and where it's built. And second, trying to create more economic opportunity by creating a fertile investment area for jobs, the creation and maintenance of those jobs. And certainly, as has been pointed out, the 125 corridor has been a focus because we all understand that that's an area where both of those things can happen. And by virtue of this grant, they will happen. And I want to say a particular word of thanks not only to Secretary Ash, who's been incredibly responsive and engaged here with regard to North Andover and the priorities that we have for the community, but also a word of thanks to our town manager and the Board of Selectmen. Because we oftentimes talk about the importance of getting funding, but what we don't talk about enough is the fact that permitting decisions and the regulatory environment play a very large role in whether or not development is going to happen in a community. And when you have folks that roll up their sleeves and engage in a productive and efficient process of making those decisions about zoning and about regulations and about the context into which a project can be built, then you have a recipe for good success. And that's what you have here. As a result of the work that's been done in this building, an investment opportunity was created that is being capitalized upon by the folks that are going to build this housing and this multi-purpose space, this mixed-use development. And because of that, the Commonwealth was able to step in and provide a MassWorks grant that will help to build the infrastructure that will make sure that those things happen in a way that doesn't cause a traffic problem and that doesn't cause a problem for the quality of life in the community. And so MassWorks grants to me are particularly important because of that, because they make an investment, and that investment's important, but they do so to facilitate development in such a way that it doesn't disrupt the character and the quality of life in the community where those investments are being made. So congratulations to everyone that's been involved with this. Again, particularly to Secretary Ash, who has been so wonderful at coming here, having a conversation with us, understanding the essence about what is important in the goals that we have for the town. And congratulations to our town manager, who has worked so hard with the Board of Selectmen to say, let's be able to create an opportunity to say yes to the right things. And that's what you see happening here today because of that partnership. So thank you all very much, and it's a real honor to be here with all of you today as we commemorate this development and this very, very important investment of state funds. Thank you.
So another member of our legislative delegation that is here today, someone who's always worked on local projects, is hypersensitive in a very positive way to making sure that what happens here and our quality of life is sustained. Diana DiZoglio was here to make a few comments, was at the center of the Merrimack College, called the Merrimack College Gateway Pedestrian Improvement Project, was there every day to answer questions and push the agenda along with the rest of the delegation. I'd like to thank her for her involvement with that. It's a very successful project and everything she does for us every day. So with that, Diana DiZoglio.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here, and thanks, Andy, for inviting us here today. I just want to, I want to echo everything that was already said. I couldn't have said it better. But I do want to also point to sort of like the grassroots movement of the method that this project actually started from, and that is the townspeople. I actually went to the North Andover Town meeting not too long ago, and I remember when this project was brought up, and it was largely approved, and the citizens of North Andover thought that this was going to be something that would be embraced, and they said yes to this project. There were some concerns, however, with how the project would actually be implemented in a way that it wouldn't negatively impact traffic and there wouldn't be unintended consequences that followed some of the positive efforts that were being made to improve economic development and infrastructure improvements in the community. So what actually happened at first was we had some community members come out from Barker Street and from 125, and what they did is they reached out and they advocated for their neighbors and for their friends in the community who said, hey, listen, we have some concerns about the way that this project is going to impact the people who already live here. And we want to be a welcoming community. We want to see this type of economic development occur, but we also want to make sure that at the same time that we're not negatively impacting traffic that's already a struggle in that neighborhood, and that we are positively continuing to impact the people who already live in this neighborhood and in this community. So what those people did is they called the Board of Selectmen members, they called our community development director, they called town manager Mailer, and they called the state legislative delegation, and they asked us to get to work on their behalf. So none of this would actually be occurring at all if the people in the community in that neighborhood specifically didn't take the time, didn't put in the effort to reach out to this legislative delegation. Because at the end of the day, even though we're the people up here that are making this announcement, the real hard work comes from the people in this community who put in that effort and take the extra time after their busy schedules at work to make sure that they're connecting with us and communicating to us what their concerns are, so that we're able to effectively go back to the State House and to advocate on your behalf. So I want to just really quickly, if we could just say thank you with a round of applause to the people in the community that reached out to us. They deserve all the credit for this. And then I just want to highlight something that was already said. This is about partnership. The community members being at the center of that partnership, but then a partnership with the town administration and with the local elected officials at the town level, a partnership with the state elected officials, a partnership with the private sector, and a partnership with the Baker-Polito administration with Secretary Jay Ash from the Economic Development team that's here today. So without that partnership, without all working together across party lines to focus on what's important to the North Andover community and making sure that we're all working together to see the infrastructure improvements and economic development that we want to see, without that partnership, that would never happen. So I want to say thank you to the administration for coming out here today and for always being a partner with us, and obviously to Senator Bruce Tarr for working together with the rest of the legislative delegation to support and vote for this funding when we have that opportunity to vote for this funding. And then thank you to the town officials who always make sure, like Senator Tarr said, that those permits are pulled and that at the local level that every little last detail is being handled. So a big thank you to all of our partners. It's a great day in the town of North Andover. Let's get ready to celebrate, and I'll let you introduce Secretary Ash.
Thank you, Diane. I know that Senator Tarr recognized the Kitty Ives couldn't be here, Senator Ives or Representative Lyons as well. They certainly wanted to be here and had conflicts in their schedule. I certainly think the representative hit it dead on. This really was a community effort, something that'll benefit the immediate area as well as some surrounding areas. It'll help those people that move into new development and those people who come to work in the development that surrounds that. It's also important to announce that not far from this, we have a new partner coming to town, Life Foam. We'll be locating the former Solo Cup site, a 250,000 square foot facility that for a while had remained vacant, and we're going to see new employees, up to 80 employees in that site, running multiple shifts, and it's exciting sort of step off in addition to this project to have that kind of development again happening along the corridor. Skipping to the introduction of Secretary Ash. First of all, again, repeating the partnerships that we have that are extraordinary. I have the great pleasure of introducing Secretary Ash, who I keep as both someone that has been very early a mentor of mine. That's not an age reference. You're younger than I, right? So can't be an age reference. But fortunate enough, in all seriousness, to have Jay as an early mentor in this business, someone who helped me a lot as I transitioned from the private to the public sector. For those of you who follow Jay Ash's life, professional life, in terms of what he does for the state, he literally travels the Commonwealth from border to border, north and south, on an almost daily basis, stopping for fraps or breakfast along the way, and reaches out or extends the message of economic development from the Commonwealth on behalf of the governor to each and every community, from places like Montague, which some of these places I haven't heard of before, I think, to Plymouth and all throughout the Commonwealth. So it's a recognition that this administration certainly understands the linkage that needs to happen with local governments. We do the work every day, sometimes the dirty work, but certainly the pleasurable work for our residents. We're here every day to answer their phone calls and help them. and this administration, certainly centered around the economic development front, and Secretary Ashes has really helped in terms of understanding what happens when someone who was a former city manager and whose record of economic development in Chelsea is unparalleled, quite frankly. You just need to drive through Chelsea to see it. When that kind of person communicates back to the governor the need for economic development and how it would manifest itself or how it gets delivered in communities, he brings with himself the amount of experience and an understanding of what we do every day to make those things happen. So it's my pleasure to call Secretary Ash a friend, and I thank you on behalf of the Town of North Andover and the legislative delegation for this extraordinary grant. Secretary Ash.
It's great to be with everyone. Andy, it's great to share good news again, this time in our respective roles. We've spent a lot of time together in different roles and have had great news at every step along the way. It's nice of you to talk about me as a mentor. You too have been a mentor to me, and I've learned an awful lot about not only good government, which you've always been about, and good finance, which you've always been about, but in formative years when I was still figuring out what economic development meant to me and how to best support it. You were one of those professionals I learned a lot from. Listen to you talk about it, not only from a finance perspective, but from a community development perspective. And lots of what I get to do now around the state is done with whispers in my ear from Andy Mailer that if I was in charge, this is what I would do. So congratulations on all that you've accomplished here. And we're really excited to be a partner with you here. We're excited about what we see here in North Andover, and Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, and myself are pleased to be able to be here today to make an award announcement. Now, the reason why we're here is to talk a little bit about a different kind of power. It's the power of bipartisanship. So we're talking an awful lot of power these days. I've been driving around Merrimack Valley, around the North Shore. My power was out for 16 hours in Danvers, and I've seen the devastation of trees down and wires all over the place. I actually had the first thing that's ever happened to me before. I had to take a detour because of a tree being down and power being fixed. And then on the detour, I had to take a second detour. So I was detoured from the detour. That is not good news, but I'm encouraged by what I continue to see, communities coming together and making sure that we put ourselves back together again. The power that I want to talk about, the power of bipartisanship, is alive and well on Beacon Hill. The reason why I'm able to be here today, a representative of a Republican administration, to make a grant announcement on behalf of a Republican administration and a democratically controlled legislature, is that we on Beacon Hill have figured out how to put politics aside, and instead we're using our power for good, the power of coming together around good public policy. You see, a Republican governor filed $1 billion economic development bill a year and a half ago, and the democratically controlled legislature, with the assistance of Republicans that are in the legislature, were able to push along and get adopted that $1 billion economic development bill. A very unique circumstance, I would venture to say, not often replicated throughout the country, that Democrats in control of the legislature have given a Republican governor $1 billion to go out and spread good news. And I am the face of good news for the Baker-Polito administration. So the governor says to me at a cabinet meeting recently, he says, "Jay, everywhere I go, I hear good things about you." And I said to him, "Governor, if you give me another $100 million to give out in grant money, you'll hear even better things about me." And so sure enough, he did that. And so we're around this month, going around to cities and towns to talk about $85 million that is being invested in cities and towns, in regions, in our economy and in our Commonwealth, to help communities revitalize, to help businesses grow, and to help people prosper. And that's why we're so excited about the project that you've all adopted here. So the governor and the lieutenant governor have said that we need to go out to places that are looking to grow, and we need to make a difference in helping those projects move forward. I congratulate all of you for taking what sometimes seems like a courageous step forward. Now, for many of us who are doing economic development, we think of it as a natural order that we continue to try to develop things over and over again. But we do recognize in communities that there are some that want to preserve what they have and think that growth means that they won't be able to preserve that which they've become used to and really value. I would argue that in communities that are interested in preservation, growth is an important part of the preservation agenda. And if you're not growing, you're falling behind. And if you're not generating new income, if you're not bringing new people into the community, if you're not creating new jobs, ultimately you're going to lose all of that in the long run as they go to places where things are happening. So I congratulate all of you for having the conviction, courage, and collaboration that is necessary to come together and adopt a truly great economic development project. We're excited about 192 new residential units to support what's happening here in North Andover, but also in the region. We're excited about 43,000 square feet of commercial activity that will bring good jobs to the region and continue to promote the vitality of the entire region. And we're less excited, but nonetheless are funding the infrastructure that needs to support that. I joke sometimes that I talk an awful lot about sewer lines like they're the most interesting things that happen in our world, but in fact they're a vehicle, they're a conduit. New roadways, new sidewalks, intersections that get repaired allow for the private sector to then come in and do what it does well, create jobs, create new housing, create vitality in communities. So I'm pleased on behalf of our legislators. I wouldn't be here if not for the legislators working hard to make sure that we have the funds available. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito, who love this program so much that the governor has actually committed 85% more dollars to our MassWorks programs than we had several years ago. I'm pleased on behalf of all of them to recognize the work that you've all done in this community, and we are making an award in the amount of $2.7 million to help support the infrastructure that will support the development along the 125 corridor. We do so recognizing that you've already done much of the hard work and are looking forward to the benefits of that hard work, but we do so hoping that you'll continue to look for ways to promote the economic vitality of the region, support each other in making North Andover an even more special place than it already is. So on behalf of all of us in state government that get to go around and talk about all the good news, we want to thank all of you on the local level for making a difference. As Andy said, we worked together in municipal management many years ago, and I very much appreciate how difficult it is to be a local official. Frankly, as Secretary of Housing and Economic Development, I don't get any emergency calls at 3 in the morning anymore. So I can only imagine, Andy, what your life has been like, supported by legislators and responding to people who have real needs. I congratulate you for taking on that challenge. If our $2.7 million award helps to lighten the load a little bit as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and need to do in terms of making life better for the residents of the community in this particular hour of need, we're happy to do so and look forward to standing with you for so much more good news in the future. So thanks everyone for being here, and I'm really happy to share this award with you all.
I know that the folks from Princeton didn't have an opportunity to be here. They had some conflict in schedule as well, but on behalf of Andrew Chapin from Princeton and Princeton Properties and Princeton Fajetta, I want to comment on the fact and make the announcement that there's a soft cost associated with this project for approximately $300,000. They'll appear at the next Selectmen's meeting to make that in the form of a donation. And so this is truly a public-private partnership. They recognize the hard work of the legislative delegation, the Commonwealth and state, and the town, and are excited about breaking ground in the not-so-distant future. So thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Secretary Ash, and we look forward to another day like this sometime in the future.
Yeah, great. Thanks, everyone.